We're actually at a friend of mine. I've done some videos for his company, Charvonia Design. I'm at his house now here, right outside of Charlotte, North Carolina. We have his Kaiser behind me that was featured on Jay Leno's Garage. Very cool car. But today we're going to be checking out his Land Cruiser that's LS powered. It's a truck motor, the LQ9. And you know I like Toyotas. I definitely like the Land Cruisers. Add an LS in there and it sounds like pretty awesome, right? Well, let's go check it out. We're going to take a little ride, grab some breakfast, and I can show you the vehicle. Real quick before we check out the Land Cruiser, maybe I'll make another full video on this car, but this is the Gene Winfield paint job. This car is on air. You know, he hasn't driven it in a while, so there's some stuff inside, but this is a full custom car that was featured at SEMA multiple times, and it's just super cool. So I drove my Hyundai Ioniq 6 lease, the electric car, 450 or so miles. It was about 7 or 8 hours with charging. All right, and we're in the 1987 Toyota Land Cruiser FJ60 series with the owner Keith and builder. Where did you get this thing?
So I bought this in Arizona when I lived there, and I just saw it on Craigslist, and the ad was pretty funny. It said like Project Land Cruiser, needs work, must be mechanically inclined or I won't sell it to you, or something like that. And so I went and met the guy, and he was a dirt biker, and he built this just to like rip around, and he really didn't try to keep it nice or anything. He actually wrecked it on the freeway. He hit a concrete barrier so hard it popped the straight six off the motor mounts and put it through the radiator. So then he went and found a big block, like an old 2-bolt main 454 out of a Suburban, nothing special. But he threw this big block in there with a turbo 400, and it was like very anemic. But that's how I bought it, and I just figured I'll run until it dies, you know. Sure enough, one day it started knocking, crank walk. The whole crank had moved front to back like a 1/4 inch. So I pulled it out and just found the 6-liter LQ9. It was kind of mildly built. It had a Texas speed can, LS7s, I think, lifters, just all the upgrades you want. And I did my homework and realized that the Holley throttle body injection I had, ECU could actually operate an LS engine with the proper harness from Holley, and it shares the same bell housing bolt pattern, so I could bolt an LS right up to the turbo 400 that's already in here and leave the whole drive line just as is. It's kind of the easiest thing to do, just plop an LS in here. My mileage doubled. I went from 6 miles per gallon to 12. Way more power. Turn the key and it just starts. It's super reliable. So, yeah, it's kind of the story on it. It's just been a fun truck to rip around in. Take it out to Euphoria, you go 4-wheeling. You fit the whole family. You can camp out of it. And it's actually super reliable and pretty good to drive. 205 transfer case. It's like a bulletproof Chevy transfer case. It's got a 14-bolt, like 1-ton rear end in it. So it's already all Chevy anyways, so there's no point in trying to put it all back. It's already all modded out.
Right. So it's really the perfect candidate for an upgrade, more Chevy upgrades.
Yeah, you're not running some pristine stock Land Cruiser. And LSs are a really popular swap in these. It's funny, the Land Cruiser guys still call them Vortex swaps because they used to put like a 5.7 350 out of a Chevy Silverado and they were called Vortex. Yeah, so that's a GPS speedometer. It's not, it hasn't acquired right now, so it's not actually reading, but this little digital readout in the middle is really everything out of the ECU, and you can monitor everything. So I've got like timing, AFR, manifold air temp, fuel pressure, oil pressure, just all the important things you want to monitor when you're driving. Tell you what though, it's a self-learning ECU. I had an initial tune put in it by like a LS dyno tune guy, and it's just adjusted every season, every temperature, every altitude I take it to. It's fine. It drives like stock.
So if you've seen any of my other videos, I'm a decently big guy, 6'1", about 285 right now. I don't know, after dinner last night, maybe a little bit more. But there is headroom here. My feet, my knees are not hitting the dash. and the seat's all the way back, so I can fit in here. This actually is pretty spacious. You do definitely sit up high in these Land Cruisers compared to some of the other Toyota vehicles I've been in. It kind of reminds me, it just feels like you're sitting on a platform, kind of like the 4Runner. But overall, it's pretty comfortable. I can see over the dash, like, I mean, I'm pretty way above the dash, so it's definitely like easy line of sight. You can see everything. You can hear the LQ9 kind of roaring away. There's not a lot of sound deadening. It's really not bad either. Like, we can have a conversation. It's not that loud.
Yeah, I didn't put a super loud open muffler.
Yeah, it's just like really unique, really cool.
I didn't want it to be too obnoxious. I also did a single exhaust just to simplify the exhaust routing. So yeah, you've got the 2-into-1. I've got a catalytic converter on it to keep the fumes down. Flowmaster, I forget the series, but it's a pretty mild muffler, and then it goes to a single exit tip. So, you know, I could have done true duals and kept that cam lobe. You know, it kind of masks some of that, but it's also doesn't stink. You're not smelling a bunch of fumes, and you can still have a conversation inside. So.
Yeah, especially you have 2 kids, a wife.
Right.
If you want to drive with you, you're not trying to, you know, make their drive not pleasurable.
Exactly. Yeah, it needs to be comfortable for everybody.
And it still has 4-wheel drive.
Yeah, so it's a twin stick. I actually converted to twin cable shifters, so I have full control over front and rear and high and low. So now I can put it into like 2 low manually, for example. Or if you wanted to do a front dig, if you're like really rock crawling and you need to slide the front over, you could put it in front wheel drive and actually rev it up and slide it over. I don't do that style of wheeling with this, but it's nice to have the really smooth cable shifters. I think the company's called JB something. They're known for like the twin stick upgrades. But that control and the ease of shifting the cables is really nice over the stock like mechanism that's just all linkages and really clunky and hard to shift. And then it's got a turbo 400, which is nothing special. It's a strong transmission, but it's just a 3-speed, total slush box, you know.
If you wanted to upgrade, you could always like get a better transmission if you wanted. Like,
yeah, probably like a 4L80E, like something out of a Chevy 2500 4-wheel drive truck.
This is more a town cruiser and off-road, or you're not going to want to take this on a long road trip only because of the 3-speed.
Right, and Uori is like hour and a half from here, so you do have to get out on the highway and cruise. And it's revved out a little bit. It's probably 2,000, 2,500 RPM. It's not terrible.
That's not terrible.
But it's also not like being in a modern car that's going to drop way low and just sip fuel and cruise down the highway. You know?
Yeah, but I don't know if sipping fuel is the...
yeah, that's not what this is for.
Big engine. It's a big blocky SUV.
35-inch tires, solid axles, spring over.
Right.
You're not, this isn't for sipping fuel. Yeah, so it's got Kenda 35 by 10.5. So most 35s are 12.5, but I went with skinny tires on this. Even though they're tall, they're pretty narrow, which I just think looks better on a Land Cruiser. And those are mounted to 1552 wheels, which, you know, they're kind of a more modern brand, but they've got these really traditional looking, like 6-hole. It's almost inspired by like a steel Land Cruiser wheel. So. Gotta pull pretty hard. There you go.
Is that reverse? Neutral.
I think you're
we'll find
yeah,
out.
it sounds like reverse to me. So this truck's out of Arizona, like I was saying, which is great because it doesn't have any rust. But the downside was all the door panels and the dash and everything was just cracked and dried out and ruined. So I was able to find a lot of this, a lot of these interior parts as a replacement. Put a FJ60 back seat in it because it's got headrests for my kids, and you can see it's pretty good upholstery still. It's all original stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, well, watch out for this guy.
Alright, this guy doesn't look...
I'm surprised he's not in an Ultima. Yeah. He's driving. Go left here.
Freaking Toyota drivers. Oh, wait.
Oh, wait.
First impressions, it drives like a V8 SUV. I don't know. Like it's good. It handles pretty well. It does have like an older style feel. There's play in the steering. Reminds me of my Sequoia. That's how they were. just up until like modern stuff where it's electronically assisted. The old mechanical stuff is always just like press play.
Yeah, very mechanical.
So this was actually at SEMA in what year?
2016, I want to say I took it. I just built the Tuner Challenge FRS in 2014, and it was stressful. You know, it was a lot of work. It was stressful. So I got this just as a project for myself, just to work on in my spare time. And then, of course, I had to decide to take it to SEMA, and it turned into a whole build again. But you know, the upside is you get the truck done really fast. You're able to get a lot of nice parts to go on it. Then you get to be at SEMA and display it and represent all those companies. And at the time, I worked for Air Raid, which was bought by K&N, so I kind of worked for both those companies. And they had a spot for a vehicle. They asked if I wanted to bring my Land Cruiser, so how could I say no?
Yeah, and you had that really cool livery and design on it.
Yeah, Andy Blackmore designed like a digital camo kind of livery. It's a matte white base, and then it was like a gray digital camo. And that was on it for a little while. And then I kind of peeled it all off after a while. I got tired of the flashy graphics, and now it's just the matte white. I did leave the Speed Hunter's hood graphic on. I think that's kind of cool.
So this is how it looks to drive this. This is kind of the POV. You got these like skinny mirrors, which are kind of cool. You got the play in the steering wheel. It's definitely very mechanical feeling, but in a good way.
Yep. So you notice the mirrors, those are actually off a 70 series. They're Toyota parts, kind of pricey, kind of hard to find. But what's cool about them is they do bolt up to the door, and then they're taller, and you can just see better out of them. The stock 60 mirrors, a little tiny rectangle, it's like half the size of that, and you can't see anything.
Yeah. So here we are, just driving along. It says good power. Yeah.
Get on it and see.
Well, don't hit that mailbox. So I just drove it, got back from our breakfast run. Now we're going to take a look under the hood. So what do we got here?
Yeah, so like we were saying, this is a 6-liter, call it an LS. It's really an LQ9 truck engine. It's got a cam and lifters and stuff like that, just to kind of get a little performance. And then it's got a Holley Sniper EFI throttle body driven by a Holley ECU, CSF radiator, FJ60 airbox, just to keep things quiet. You know, with like an open cone air filter, you get a lot of whistling and weird noise and stuff. So I actually did a factory airbox and then 3D printed with carbon fiber plastic, 3D printed an intake tube for it. It's got the Holley cast manifolds that fit really tight, so it can fit between the frame rails. I'm trying to think what else. It's got a truck manifold that's kind of regarded as like a budget performance intake manifold. Odyssey AGM battery that's just worked well for years and years. One problem I had with this, now that I'm looking at the brakes here, was getting the master cylinder sized appropriately for the 14-bolt rear with the 6-lug and the disc brake conversion and all that. So now I had 4-wheel discs on it instead of disc drum, and it needed more fluid going to those big calipers in the back. So I went through like 4 different master cylinders, finally learned that it comes down to the bore size on the master cylinder, and I was able to get the correct size master where the brakes work pretty well. I've got a chase base proportioning valve in here so I could tune the front to rear brake bias and make it, you know, drive good on the street before you can lock the rears up, which is unsafe in like a slick condition, right? What else? It's got a Viper electric fan, giant fan that pulls a bunch of amps, beast, but it keeps it cool. Like, never had any issues with overheating.
That's what a swapped 87 Land Cruiser looks like. Of course, it's kind of no longer in SEMA condition,
right,
but you also do, it's kind of just a novelty. You don't really drive it every day.
Yeah, it's
I mean, you got your brand new Tacoma. That's the shop truck.
Right, a little more convenient to drive.
Yeah,
but at the same
creature
time,
comforts.
I just can't get rid of it. You know, I've had it a long time. I bought it cheap. I put a bunch of money and time into it, but you can't get these cheap anymore. And yeah, I could sell it, I could probably make a few dollars, but would I ever get another one? You know, probably not, because
yeah, I
bought this for $3,000. I don't want to go buy one for 30 now.
Right. Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for letting us take a look at it and for letting me drive in it. And yeah, check out Charvonia Design, Keith Charvonia. He has a bunch of different builds as well as really cool parts for various trucks, including the Tacoma. So that's it for the Land Cruiser video here in North Carolina. Headed back to Pennsylvania tomorrow. Just wanted to really show this thing because this is my first time seeing it in person. I've seen it in pictures, I've heard about it, and you think, oh, V8 swapped Land Cruiser, that sounds awesome. Well, here it is. You can get a new Land Cruiser, like or newer one, like a 2020, before they stopped sale in the US. You can get it had the 5.7 V8, which is awesome, the 5.7 liter. But they stopped selling that. And the new Land Cruiser that came out is a 4-cylinder hybrid, turbo, 4-cylinder turbo hybrid. So it's kind of just completely different. The Land Cruiser has just really changed over time. There's different series, obviously, as well. You have the bigger ones, the smaller ones, the Prado. It's all over the place. But this is kind of where it all started, or at least the craze of the Land Cruiser started. Everybody wants an FJ60, 62, or FJ80 now, it seems like. So it's really cool just to see this and kind of hear the history about it, drive it, check it out. Let me know what you think of it in the comments below. Would you put a Chevy drivetrain in your Toyota? I mean, it might be controversial, but let me know in the comments below. With all that said, I want to say thank you for watching and keep those wheels turning.